So in this module, we went and took a look at the necessity of ethical hacking. It's so I get paid money. It's so that we protect ourselves if we work for the company or if we're contracted for that company. Again, many times the company doesn't realize they need it until it's too late. We also talked about the skills that you have to have. Get those nunchuck skills going. We also talked about multi-layered defense. Remember, we don't just have one security mechanism and that's it. Each layer frustrates an attacker. We then went through and talked about incident management, why we need to have it, what it supplies us with, what information. We talked about security policies. Remember, we had a plethora of security policies that were available. Real quick, I want to tell you my story about when it comes to security policies. I was doing a review of security with a local county fire department, and the fire chief said, look, we got this new, I was kind of new to the situation, so I was just kind of sitting there listening, and they were talking with the vendor, and they said, look, we've got this device that's designed to filter out inappropriate websites at the fire stations. And the reason why they had to deploy it was because they had some female firefighters that found it offensive. They jumped on the machine in the kitchen and all kinds of pop-ups showed up. So they got this device and they were paying like $1,500 a year for the filtering technology. And they asked the question, do we need to renew this? And my first question was, do you have a security policy in place that states what happens if someone gets caught? And let's not be that parent that makes a threat and doesn't follow through. And they were like, no. So we went through, helped them create a policy that said, if you got caught going to an inappropriate website, 0 tolerance. You were let go. They put it out. The policy had all the employees, all the firefighters, everybody sign it. And sure enough, one of the rookies went to an inappropriate site. They fired him, and it was amazing how all of a sudden the inappropriate sites stopped showing up. It was kind of weird. So security policies help to protect us. It's one of our layers of defense. We talked about vulnerability research. This is a continual process. As long as attackers are coming up with new and interesting ways of getting in, and technology drives that. Ooh, I'm waiting for the drone that hovers over my house that hacks my Wi-Fi network. See? Thinking outside the box, 2 different technologies. Now I have to come up with a countermeasure for the drone. It's called a Mossberg shotgun. No. And then finally, we talked about penetration testing. We don't just sit there and say, hey, look, this is what we've done. We've got to test it. It's like a backup. I always tell IT guys, too, my students, you don't just come up with a backup and restore plan. You go through it, because nothing is worse than getting caught with your pants down, right? So what is exposed? Well, that's an interesting way of phrasing that one too, huh? What is a vulnerability? Is it at a physical layer? What happens if the most famous ones is doing the pen test where you drop a USB drive in the parking lot and the USB drive has a piece of malware on it? You see who picks it up and who plugs it in, because we have the policy that any USB drive that is not company property does not get plugged into a computer, or if you find a USB drive, you need to turn it into IT. Well, let's see who plugs it in. So pen testing, extremely important. So up next, if you're interested, we're going to be talking about how to prepare for the ethical hacker exam. Give you the skinny as well as some tips and Superdale tricks.